Get a songbook and turn to page number 630. $630. What a friend we have in Jesus, all our sins and griefs to bear. What a privilege to carry everything to God in prayer. Oh, what peace we often forfeit. Oh, what needless pain we bear. All because we do not carry everything to God in prayer. Have we trials and temptations? Is there trouble anywhere? We should never be discouraged. Take it to the Lord in prayer. Can we find a friend so faithful who will all our sorrows share? Jesus knows our every weakness. Take it to the Lord in prayer. Are we weak and heavy laden, covered with a load of care? Precious Savior, still our refuge. Take it to the Lord in prayer. Do thy friends despise, forsake thee? Take it to the Lord in prayer. In his arms he'll take and shield thee. Thou wilt find a solace there. Brother Kermit, would you pray for us? Well, it's good to have everybody here with us tonight. We're getting a few more lights, you can see. If you're on YouTube tonight and you're watching for the first time, you're there sitting there saying, what a head on that thing right there. That's probably what you're saying, but you can see it now. It shines, and we have a few more lights up here in the front, so things are brighter. We brightened up the auditorium last week, and I guess we're all just a lot brighter than we used to be, maybe. I don't know, but it's good to have you here with us tonight. Things are looking good. We still don't have our sidewalk yet. We still don't have our septic finished and all those things, but we'll get there one of these days. I think the Lord's teaching us patience, and I'm not learning real well on some of that. So, but I haven't hollered at nobody yet, so I guess we're being all right. Trying to think of what else going on. Don't forget the 20th. I don't know what today is, but I think it's next Thursday, the 20th. Am I right on that? Anyhow, the 20th, they're having a graduation from our school here. Now, the only people graduating is the kindergartners, but everybody else is in part of the program, and it'll be a good program. And it's a good thing for you to do on Thursday night. Keeps you from watching grass grow and stirring up trouble with your neighbors and things. So come on down. We'll have plenty of seats. And come down and see how the graduation goes and see how everybody does. And the school's doing good. We had another phone call today. I think may have another student coming in next year. We have some more young ones coming in, and so you pray for our school. We don't need like 200 kids, but it wouldn't be a bad idea if all of a sudden 10 more showed up, and it would help a little bit. So I'm looking at, what's that? See, there you go. And now families that bring kids, they do figure out pretty quick. It is a lot more expensive than going to public school, and so there is a difficulty with it. I'm still thankful. I was thinking about this today. In fact, I was talking to somebody about this today. There used to be a teacher, retired, maybe used to be a superintendent even, retired, but talking about some of the things that they're teaching. Now, I don't think they are around here yet, but they'll push it. They're trying to teach kids now can you imagine teaching a little 8-year-old, you're a racist? They don't even know what the name of the word means, but they're teaching them because of certain things. You're this and you're this, and I don't think it's happening around here yet, but it's just amazing things they get started in California, then send it all over the country. And so you and I ought to be praying about things like that and taking a stand against it, because it can cause a lot of problems, and it just needs prayer. We need God to be in control of a lot of those things. So school, don't forget, come be a part of that. I'm looking to see what else is going on. This Sunday, we are going to we have 2 young people that are in Pensacola. We've done this for years. If someone goes to like faith school, a Christian school, they cannot get scholarships through their public school and things like that, because they're different accreditation. I don't know how to say that word anyhow. They're accredited different. And so they cannot get scholarships. And so as a church, we decided years ago, if they decide to take this direction in extra learning, that we would help pay for some of that. So we have 2 young people right now that are going. And so this week we're going to kind of emphasize education. And we will take anything that comes in on Sunday night, we'll go toward that. And then anything that people want to put in on Sunday mornings and specify that in their tithing envelopes will also go toward that. We already had a gentleman last week that gave $500 toward it, so we're grateful for that. And so the Lord's already begun to bless in that area. Now, we do have new prayer lists out there. I know this is not the first week in May, but we just got a little bit behind. But we do have new prayer lists out there. If you didn't get one, we can get you some. I don't think Rich is not here tonight, so I think I seen Brother Kylie over there passing out, so everybody should have one. And here's some things going on. We've got these people on here, I think, but maybe not. If I've got them on a paper here, and I've got this paper here trying to look at it. So I'll mention some of these. Mr. Pitts, Steve Pitts is his name. He's been coming for quite some time. He goes in this Friday for a biopsy, and then he has a follow-up next Friday. They're checking him for lymphoma. They're pretty sure that's what he's got, is in his lymph nodes. And so you pray for him, and he says him and his wife are doing better now. I don't think there is any way that you can have a doctor come in and tell you, I think you have cancer, and you say, oh, well, okay, well, I'll look into that next week after I mow the grass. It just doesn't work that way. It sets you back no matter who you are, and so, but he says they're doing better. So you continue to pray for the Pitts. Then Mr. Dennis Morgan went in this week and got him a new hip, and I haven't seen him yet, but he says he's doing good. We'll see when he comes to church. If he's walking backwards, we'll figure they put this one in backwards also. But I think he's doing all right, but continue to pray for him. Chick McKee goes in now. Of course, he's been pretty sick and having troubles. They checked his carotid arteries, and he has 100% blockage on one side and quite a bit on the other. But they found out that they think he's had a heart attack somewhere in the past, so they had to check his heart. But they said his heart is strong enough, so he goes in June 1st. I don't know the exact time, but he goes in June 1st to have that carotid artery, one of them worked on, and then he'll go in a few weeks later and have the other one worked on. And so remember, you can put him down there if you'd like. I do not know if I put this person on your prayer list last week. I don't have her last name. It's Mrs. Rushton's, I believe it was her sister-in-law. Her name was Sharon. That's all I got, the first name, Sharon. But I think it came out, maybe Brian put it out in a message. I cannot remember when I sent it out, or if I give it to Brian, or if Brian give it to me. I can't remember any of that. But I do believe she has breast cancer, and so I put her on list number 5. I don't know if JC and Martha's listening, but they can't holler through the camera, so have you got any update, anything going on with JC and Martha? Okay. Okay. Yeah. And then also, I don't know if I put this one on there last week. They were on my list, and I'm just moving them over to this new list, but over on the right ends, put Jimmy Smotherman. Jimmy Smotherman, that is some relation or some friend of Sharon Newby, and he has heart trouble, he has pneumonia, and he has COVID all at the same time, so that's not working too well for him. Anything else going on out there that we need to remember, talk about? Everybody getting all this? I forgot there's people listening that are not hearing anything. If you're listening on YouTube, put Beverly Morgan on the cancer list and Jay Morgan on the sick list. He has dementia and she has cancer. Yes, sir. Okay. Okay. Yes, sir. Okay. Okay. Well, the Lord knows we can just put down some of the details there on the right ends and pray for him. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Timothy Snyder. He'll share them with you if you want them. Yeah, we've been praying for him. He's been struggling with them for quite some time. I think it could be that his wife is making him drink stuff that makes it worse. I wouldn't bet on that, but she's probably making him drink Pepsi every day, because I know the doctors tell you that's a bad thing for you. Poor old Mike, he wouldn't do anything that's bad for him. He has some good days, but stays up half the night fighting stuff. It's difficult. I've had enough kidney stones that just the thought of having it like he is just almost makes you cry. And the doctors always assure you. I remember they told me, that it'll be painful, but they said within 3 or 4 days usually it'll be gone. Mine only lasted a year, and I couldn't get him to do nothing. And I think Mike's has been going on about that long, so. Anything else? Yes, ma'am? Okay. Going through job change, is that what you said? Yes, okay. Okay, Terry Chu, put these on the write-ins. Terry Chu. We used to have something about jobs on here. We still got that other request. Their job's nothing under it, but if you want to put something under there, put Jacob. He's switching jobs. Pray that things go well. I think it might be a job he enjoys more, but it may take more hours than what I think he's thinking. So there's no such thing as an easy job that I know of. And seeing Mr. Ben back there reminds me, around the 1st of June, they're going to be getting some students. So last year, COVID changed everything. So we'll be ready for some students. He'll be wore out. He'll be coming in here. He'll fall asleep about halfway through church, and have counselors coming in here. They'll be begging for help, things like that. So it'll be a good year for him. But you pray for the school that things will go well. Okay, now we will, if you've got your Bibles, open to the book of Proverbs chapter 18. Again, we'll come back at the end of the service and we'll pray over the list. Actually, it went a little longer tonight than I normally do. I don't know what happened there. Proverbs chapter number 18. Kinsley came into my office singing some sort of song. I've heard the kids sing it, stop and do something, but somehow she told me stop and quit trying to do something about friends. I don't know what it was. I didn't quite understand it, but I told her, I said, that's what Papple's preaching on tonight. I want to talk a little bit about how to make friends and keep friends. And you probably think, some of you might be thinking, preacher, I'm too old to even worry about that, but it's strange. I read, you know this, I read a lot of statistics and I look up a lot of things and I Google a lot of things to find out because I'm curious about a lot of things. And so this last week I Googled, somebody was talking about the amount of suicides in this day, and even today I talked to someone who, he was talking about how fragile people are. And I don't know if didn't know if it was more, so I went back and looked, and today, per 100,000 people, I don't know how many people there is today compared to what there was in 1955, but from today back to 1955, we have per 100,000 people, there's more than 3 times as many suicides as there was in those days. And I think to myself, is the world that much worse? I mean, people were a lot poorer in those days, and they had a lot of things went on, but it right now it is the 9th leading cause of death in America. And a lot of those people who are considering taking their own lives do so because they feel lonely, they feel isolated, they feel friendless, they feel like nobody cares, nobody loves them, and they feel like they don't know how to make friends. They don't know how to keep friends themselves. And I think probably one of the biggest ironies about the whole thing is the population on earth today is by far more than it ever has been. And there's more people lonely today than there ever has been. And it seems strange, but it's true. And so the ability to make friends and the ability to keep good friends is a skill that everybody needs, and I believe according to the Bible, it's a skill everybody could have. Now, not everybody does. And so today I want to look at here in Proverbs chapter 18, verse number 24. I just want to talk about this one verse for a moment. I think it's one of the best verses in the Bible on this subject. It says this: a man that hath friends must show himself friendly. And there is a friend that sticketh closer than a brother. And just in this verse, it gives me two very, I think, clear ways for making and keeping friends. And the first is, we got to show ourselves friendly. That's what it says, the first part of that verse. Now, be honest with you, not everybody has the same personality. Some people are very outgoing. I don't know that, I know for sure I'm not what I would call a very outgoing person. Some people think I am. Someone just told me this week, says, you know everybody. Well, in some places I know a lot of people because I've been here a long time, but I don't know everybody. Maybe a few years ago, or if you lived around here, you were still here, but a lot of that's changed. But some people are outgoing. Some people's not very outgoing. Some people are extroverts. Some people are introverts. It's not a good thing to be a pastor and be more of an introvert, but I honestly think that I can just as easily, I think about this, and I told my wife this, I said, if I was just to have to go somewhere and live up on a mountain and nobody around, it wouldn't bother me at all. I could easily do that, and some people couldn't, but I could, and I'm not going to, because I don't think that's what God wants me to do, but I could, and if He tells me to go, I'll be glad to do that too. And so I don't know how I classify myself, but my son Brian, I'm hoping someday, he's not in here, but I'm hoping someday if the Lord tells me it's time to go, that Brian would take over. I'd hope as a church you would put him in there in that position. But I'll be honest with you, he's less of a talker than I am. I have to tell him all the time, you need to talk to people. You need to, and we have a business meeting. I don't think I've ever seen him in a business meeting. I don't know where he goes. I think he hides. And so I don't know if he's an introvert, what he is. But there are some people, they just got a real happy-go-lucky personality. And some people are kind of somber. So all that's different. But none of it really matters. Everybody can be a friendly person. Everybody can learn when you're around people, put a smile on your face. And everybody can learn how to be friendly and everybody can learn how to be interested in other people. And that's one of the biggest problems, I think. The only way is, again, according to this, the way to have a friend is you have to be a friend. And I wrote this down years ago, and I've probably said it before, but one man said this. He said, you can make more friends in 2 months by becoming interested in other people than you can in 2 years by trying to get other people interested in you. And I'm not going to name names, but I was thinking this afternoon there at the house, I was sitting there, and I thought, right now, I can think of 4 people that I know very well that, in my mind, they spend their time trying to get people to be interested in them. And I know a preacher sometime that I've known him for a few years. I can call this preacher up and begin a conversation. I can say, hello, this is Wes. And then he starts talking, and in a little bit we'll hang up. My wife said, did you tell him? I said, no, I never got a chance. I never got to talk. He talked, well, I'll see you later, brother, and he hangs up. And I never even got to tell him what I was calling to tell him. So I don't know if it's something wrong with him, or I don't know how to get a conversation started. But I know some years ago there was a couple ladies we had here in our church, and they argued with each other a lot. And they would come to me and they would tell me, well, they were best of friends, I guess. It seemed like it, but they was always arguing. And because one of them said, she's never interested in what I've got to say, she's only interested in what she got to say. And the other one said the same thing to me. And I told myself, I don't want in this. But they've moved on. They were older and they're gone now. But we have to show ourselves friendly. And I read an article that was written by a political strategist, a media advisor, and it's quite lengthy, but it was good and it made a lot of sense. And so I'm just going to read some of this, and this is what he does for a living, but he's, again, a strategist, and he says, the only advice that some of my clients need when they come to see me can be summed up in 2 words: lighten up. He says it's ironic, but your career can depend on whether you get serious about taking yourself less serious. According to executive recruiters, for 7 out of 10 people that lose their jobs, the cause is not a lack of skill, it's personality conflicts. As an executive reaches middle management and beyond, the primary criteria for advancement is communication and motivation skills, not job performance. Relations with superiors and peers are also critical. The bottom line, top management promotes people that they like. What's the most common reason someone isn't liked in business? He takes himself too seriously. He has no sense of humor. It's important to take your job seriously, but people who take themselves too seriously tend to believe that their title or their intelligence makes them more important than others. And according to researchers at the Center for Creative Leadership, insensitivity to others, abrasiveness, and aloftness often seem to be the factors that derail the careers of otherwise talented executives. This is, again, a political analyst and an advisor, and he goes on to suggest this. He says, ask yourself these questions. And again, I wrote these down because it's not necessarily what it goes in line with what I'm preaching tonight, but he says, write these questions down and ask yourself this from time to time. He said, when someone comes to me with a problem, do I shift gears and listen, or do I put them off and hope they'll kind of go away? Like you got too many things. I can tell you a lot of people who will put it off and hope it goes away. Then he goes on and said, ask this question: how often do I find myself complaining about things? And then third question, do I take a lot of satisfaction in lecturing people or in being tough with them? And then the fourth question, he says, ask yourself, how often do I use the word I? And I read all that, and I thought, you know what? You can really sum all that up in this sentence. People who have friends must show themselves friendly. That's pretty well what he was saying and all that. And then some of you've read this book, and I'm not a big Norman Vincent Peale person, but he does have some good things to say. But he's got a book out there called The Power of Positive Thinking, and he lists 10 rules for becoming the kind of person that others like. Now again, I'm not a follower of the power of positive thinking. That's not going to get you a whole lot in life. You need to be truth thinking. There's nothing wrong with being looking at the bright side of things, but here's some things he wrote down that I thought was good. And again, my thought tonight is on how to make friends and how to keep friends. And here's what he says, and this is something that I have struggled with my entire life, and I still struggle with people. He said, learn people's names, learn to remember people's names. I still struggle with that. I remember people's faces. I've struggled with names. I always do, and I don't know why. I remember a few years ago when Brother Kevin Albert was at Ellisville. You could talk to him one time and he would remember. He had a church that ran between 600 and 1,000, and people come by and talk to him one time. Next time he talked to you, he called you by name. I was amazed at that because I couldn't remember my own name sometimes. But he says, learn to remember names, and then he says, be a very comfortable person, so there's no strain in being with you. Be like the old shoe or the old hat kind of individual that's kind of homey. And again, these are pretty good things to think about if you want to be a person with friends. You want to have people that like being around you. He says, acquire the quality of relaxed easygoingness so that things don't ruffle you. Don't be egotistical. Guard against giving the impression that you know it all. Be natural and normally humble. Then he says, cultivate the quality of being interesting so that people will want to be with you and get something of stimulating value from their association with you. And he goes through several things, and he mentioned, I'll just mention a few of them. He says, have something to give people that will help them to be stronger and meet life more effectively. Give strength to people, and they'll give affection to you. And again, when I read all those things that he said, I thought, you know what? I could summarize them all in this verse. A man that hath friends must show himself friendly. I thought of things like this. You've probably been like this. Maybe in a place you've worked or maybe a place you've went, there's some people that they make you feel like when you're around them, you're in the presence of someone who's really important. And then there's some people, when you're around them, they make you feel like you are really important. And I'll mention his name because he's still a good fellow and he's still around. But some people, if you're in a position of leadership, especially if you're a preacher, there's going to be a lot of people who don't like you. But years ago, when I was about 20 years old, there's a fellow come to Cloverdale and started pastoring a church named Bob Ferguson. His hands was about this long. He was 6'6" and used to play basketball. And the first time I met him, and I remember I'm a 20-year-old and I don't even know my own name half the time. I teach teenagers at church. That's about all I do. He doesn't know me from the man in the moon. I'm not going to be going to his church. I'm not going to be part of his ministry. So there's no reason for him to go out of his way. But when I walked into his church for a meeting and he began talking to me, he was like, he was wanting to find out everything about me. He knew who I was, and they'd told him where I come from, but he just made you feel like you was somebody, and he didn't look over you. And since then, I've had people come tell me, I don't like this guy, I don't like this guy. I told him, I said, you're barking up the wrong tree, because I said, my first impression of him was the best, and there's nothing you're going to be able to say is ever going to change that. And so he was that type person. He has that. And I remember when Brother Hurt passed away, we went to his funeral. The night before, we went to the visitation, and there was, preachers lined up, people lined up, everything, all the way around the I don't even remember where the church was. I just remember it was big. And I looked up in front of me in line, and there's Bob Ferguson. I don't know how tall he is. He used to be about 6'8" or something, 6'6", but he's a little bit slumped over and a little bit older. But he was in front, and then a little bit later I looked, and he was in back. And then a little bit later I looked, and he was over there. And then a little later, he was talking to everybody in there. Everybody in there knew him. He just had that type of personality. And I think it helps people to make friends. I can't have that. I'd like to have that type of personality, but he made everybody feel like they was important. That's the way he always did things. And I thought about this. My thought is on friendship tonight, but I'm just rattling a little bit. But when I worked at Oxford Automotive for several years, I remember I've had a lot of bosses. Bosses don't last long in places like that. They fire them. And I had a lot of bosses, and I can remember all the different bosses. I remember some of them I would go to, and I would make a request, we need this, and they would give me no. But they give me a no, and I felt good about it. And then I could go some other times, and I'd go to one of my bosses, and I would request something, and I would get it, but I'd feel awful about it. Just the way they treat you. One guy said, okay, I'll give it to you, but it make you feel like dirt. And the other guy, he said, I can't give this to you, but you felt okay when you left. You thought, oh, he's a good guy. And that's just in people's personality. And so, and again, you think I'm just going to tell a lot of stories tonight, and I am, because I got a lot of stories that I've looked up. But the fella, and he was before my time. He died in 1960, I think, or 62 or something, but his name was Sam Rayburn. He was a Speaker of the House for years, but I think he still holds a record for having that the most years of anybody. But there's a story I read about him, and I put it in my notes years ago, and I may have used it before, but it kind of told the type of person that he was. He had a friend whose teenage daughter died suddenly in the night, and the next morning, that friend heard someone knocking on the door, and there was Mr. Rayburn, Speaker of the House, knocking on his door. And he said, I just come by to see what I could do to help. And of course, the dad couldn't hardly talk, and he was tore up with everything going on. He said, I don't think there's anything you can do. He said, we're making all the arrangements, and we're going through all that. And he said, well, have you had your coffee this morning? And he said, well, no, we've not taken time for breakfast. So he just come on in, started making coffee for everybody, and started working in the kitchen, started making them things to eat. And while he was working in the kitchen, the fellow got to thinking about it, and he come in, he said, Mr. Speaker, he said, aren't you supposed to be having breakfast in the White House today? Because they were good friends, and he knew what was going on. And he said, well, yeah, I was. He said, but I called the president and told him I had a friend who was in trouble, and I couldn't come. That's a friend. That's what I'm talking about, a friend. How do you have that? Well, a man who has friends has to show himself friendly, and that's the secret. But then the second half of that verse gives us another good secret of how to have good friendships, not just people you know, but good friendships. And again, I don't think in your life you're going to have 70, 80 good friends. You'll have a handful of good friends, and then you have other people that you know pretty well. But the second part of that verse says, again, it says, the man that hath friends must show himself friendly. And then it says, and there is a friend that sticketh closer than a brother. Who is that friend? Well, it's the Lord himself. He's a friend of sinners. And the best way for me to be a good friend to you and to other people is for me to stay on closest terms as I can to the best friend, to the friend who sticks closer than a brother. I need to stay as close to him as I can. When I can stay as close to the Lord, out of that relationship that I have with the Lord himself comes the qualities that I need to be a good friend to other people. And I think of that when over in the book of Galatians, you don't have to turn there, but in Galatians chapter number 5, the Bible says the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance. All of those things come from my relationship with Christ. So the better my relationship with him is, the better I can have all of those things in my life to be a friend to someone else. And so I think of it this way: if friendship was a cake, that would be the ingredients goes on the cake. I was thinking food, by the way. And the top of that list is love. Now, I don't know this because I couldn't cook a thing. I can turn the oven on now. I figured it out the other day. Actually, I was trying to figure out how to turn it off, and that's how I figured out how to turn it on. But I'm told, or I think, that the main ingredient in cake is flour. I don't know that, but I think so. But the main ingredient in a good friendship is love. You have to be sensitive to the needs of others. You have to really care about them. You have to be concerned about them. And where's that all come from? It comes as a fruit of the Spirit. It comes out of my relationship with Christ. Not because I just decide, hey, you know what, I'm going to be a friend to all these people. No, it's because I walk so close to Christ, that just comes natural. I just naturally care for people. I'm interested in people. Now, you won't be in everybody. You can't be that close to everybody, but the Bible tells us that the love of Christ is shed abroad in our hearts by the Holy Spirit. He moved in when I got saved, and he does that, and he helps us. And the same is true not just for love, it's for joy, because emotions are contagious. And I'll be honest with you, I can't find very many people that would tell you, I hope all my friends are just dead, just dead, monotone people. They hope they don't smile, hope they don't ever look at positive things. No, people want a friend. They want somebody that's upbeat. They want somebody that's got a smile on their face. They want somebody, you enjoy being around people who's got a joyful spirit. So where's it come from? It comes from that relationship with Christ. Same goes for peace. By walking and staying close to the Lord, there's a lot of people, you could probably even name some yourself, who used to be pretty quick-tempered. And all of a sudden, nowadays, they're peaceful. They got a much more understanding approach to things. Where do they get that? You get that from that relationship with Christ. And he helps us to grow and to mature. And that's what all those things are the fruit of the Spirit. Love, joy, peace, all that's what. And so the people that can make the best friends in this world are the people that walk the closest to the Lord. Because they got all the ingredients, all the things are there. So the Lord is the friend that sticks closer than a brother, and he helps us to grow into a loving and joyful and peaceful friend to other people. And when you and I find out that our basic security in life it comes through Christ, it frees us up to love other people. Some people are afraid to make friends because, and I've had people tell me this, I just don't want to have any close friends because I'll get hurt. So what? Make another one. Your closest friend's never going to leave you. Jesus said he'd never leave us nor forsake us. And so I can make friends without needing things in return. I can be friendly to people and they never do anything for me. And like I said, I can call a preacher on the phone, try to tell him some good news, and he tells me what's going on and hangs up, and I never get to tell him. That's all right. It doesn't really matter because my friendship is with the Lord, and it's on the other side to kind of share things with him if I can. And sometimes I can. So I guess we can put it like this. Sometimes we feel lonely, and sometimes we feel friendless because we're looking for people, human friends, to do what only the Lord can do. And you probably can think of some people down through the years that they maybe leaned too hard on people. They just depended on people. They had unrealistic expectations of people in their church, of people they work with, of people in their family. And sometimes they just become draining on other people. They're too dependent, and you might say they become codependent, so that their happiness in life is determined by this one person or what this person can do for me. But could I tell you, there is no person, no human being in this world that should be expected to sustain our spirit and keep us on top of things and keep propping us up. Now, if there is anybody in this world that is close to that, it'd be your spouse. And I've often told my wife, I said, I think I could probably battle whatever battles come into this world as long as I don't come home and me and you are battling. If I had to come home and me and her battle, I'd probably lose it. I probably would lose the battle. And but I'm thankful that we don't do that. She won't fight me. She just lets me just beat her up. No. Well, that all went out on TV. So now we're done. I'm going to jail. So, but the fact is, there's a lot of time, only the Lord can do a lot of those things. And sometimes we depend on people. And if you're expecting human beings to do what only Jesus can do, you're headed for disappointment. Your friends, they can pray for you, but only Jesus can answer prayers. And your friends can love you, but only Jesus is a friend that sticks closer than a brother. Your friends can give you part of their time, but Jesus said, I'll never leave you nor forsake you. No friend I've got can say that. Other friends, when things happen, they gather around you, but Jesus lives inside. And again, he never leaves us. Friends can sympathize with us and empathize and all those thighs words, whatever they are, but Jesus can read my thoughts, and he knows what's going on in my heart. They can't do that. Friends give advice, but Jesus can direct my steps. Friends can lift our spirits, but Jesus says, I can give you wings to soar like an eagle. We sang that song, What a Friend We Have in Jesus, all our griefs and sins to bear. What a privilege to carry everything to him in prayer. When I talk about Christ being our best friend, I'm not just trying to give out some sort of a sweet sounding little slogan or spiritual slogan, or however you want to call it. I'm talking about it can be a daily reality. We go through tough things. Now, you may not be going through it right now, but we put people on the prayer list tonight that they're going through some tough things. And I can't be there for them every day. You can't be there for them every day, but the Lord can. And it's a daily thing that we acknowledge him as our Lord and as Savior and as the one we're dependent on. And the Bible teaches that disobedience and sin destroys that relationship with God, and it destroys it with other people. I thought about this. Adam and Eve, best I can tell. Now, the Bible doesn't give me all the details of everything. Best I can tell, they got along, never had any troubles until they got out of line with God. And then what happened? Adam said, well, that woman you gave me, Lord, my land, now, no wonder I did wrong things. You put that woman in my life. And they never started blaming each other before that. And when we recognize that sin and selfishness is the root of most of our problems with other people, then we can confess it to God and ask his forgiveness, get back in fellowship with God, and start that process of building healthier relationships with people around us also. And then as our friendship with the Lord gets better and deeper through daily getting in his word, through praying, through consistent obedience, through faith and trusting him, then our life gets richer in every way, including God gives us some good friends. He brings people into our lives. John said it this way. He says, if we walk in the light as he is in the light, we have fellowship one with another. And the blood of Jesus Christ, his son, cleanses us from all sin. The fellow that I think he used to be on 60 Minutes, Andy Rooney, I think is the fellow that used to be on 60 Minutes, but he said this once. He said, good old friends are worth keeping, whether you like them or not. And so he always had a little bit of wisdom in there, but could I tell you the best way to enjoy a lifetime of enriching friendships, just pay good close attention to the one verse. And again, I think it's the best verse in the Bible for working on friendships. A man that hath friends must show himself friendly. And there is a friend that sticketh closer than a brother. Let's make it our goal to be the best friend to others we can. Now, you can't be everybody's friend, but you can be friendly to everybody that you meet. Now, with all that said, if you've got your prayer list, I got done quicker than I thought. I was afraid we was going to be late and we'd get in trouble or something. But if you got your prayer list, remember to keep some. We put some on here tonight. And then we've updated a few things on here, but we'll spend some time. And you can kneel there in your seat. You can stay seated in your seat, and then when you're finished, you're free to go. And that will be our dismissal. And thank you again for coming and being part of the service tonight. And hopefully we'll see you on Sunday, if not sooner, somewhere.